From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is a special news blast. For the next hour, we are going to discuss student participation in interscholastic and intercollegiate athletics in Pennsylvania schools, whether in grades K through 12 or at the collegiate level. The Trump administration released an executive order in January that prohibits student athletes who were assigned male at birth from playing on girls' or women's athletic teams. For cisgender athletes, this is not an issue, but for students whose gender identity does not align with their sex assigned at birth, the executive order bans their participation. The U.S. Department of Education has even threatened withholding federal funding for states and school entities that subvert the order. The U.S. Justice Department is suing the state of Maine over this very issue. By a vote of 7-4 on March 31st, coincidentally, Transgender Day of Visibility, the Pennsylvania Senate Education Committee committed Senate Bill 9, the Save Women's Sports Act, to the floor for further consideration. This bill would prohibit transgender girls and women from participating in athletic, interscholastic, and intercollegiate events on teams that match their gender identity. Since then, Lancaster County held a special election in which James Malone was elected to the Pennsylvania Senate. That brings us to this story from Lancaster Online. Lancaster County's first Democratic state senator in more than a century said Thursday that he plans to support legislation that would restrict transgender women and girls who want to participate in school sports. During a digital policy forum hosted by the left-leaning Pennsylvania Policy Center, Senator-elect James Malone was asked by a participant for his thoughts on a piece of Senate GOP legislation that would ban trans girls and women from competing in grade school and collegiate sports teams designated for girls and women. I'm probably going to vote for Senate Bill 9 and try to amend it to separate kids from adults to adjust the issues that they're presenting as a problem, Malone said, so that we can move on to things that literally affect everybody, but then hopefully also so that we can adjust these rules and regulations so that they don't affect our most vulnerable populations. Malone said people often are creating problems where they don't exist and trying to place one protected class above another, and it's really not helpful or productive or fair to anyone. Stella Sexton, vice chair of the Lancaster County Democratic Committee, who co-chaired Malone's election campaign, interrupted Malone as he was speaking about the legislation at the forum and said there are some bills Malone has not fully read. Basically, she's telling me not to tell too much, Malone responded. I have already gone through and read that one in detail and have my position on it. Sexton declined to comment on behalf of the county Democrats after the forum concluded. The legislation Malone spoke about, the Save Women's Sports Act, cleared the Senate Education Committee last month and would also define a person's sex strictly as male or female based on what they were assigned at birth. Malone's support is a stark contrast to what many of his soon-to-be Democratic colleagues in Harrisburg have said about the bill, which is unlikely to advance if it clears the GOP-led Senate. Every Democrat on the Education Committee opposed the bill when it advanced last month. Democrats who control a majority in the House have said they won't support it. And Governor Josh Shapiro, who supported Malone's candidacy, has previously said he would veto such a ban. Shapiro's spokesman did not immediately respond to a request for comment on this story, and a spokeswoman for Senate Democratic leadership declined to comment. Closer to home, Lancaster County Democratic State Representatives Izzy Smith-Waddell and Nikki Rivera, who both campaigned heavily for Malone, have been vocal supporters of the trans community as President Donald Trump has targeted them through federal executive orders. Rivera on Thursday called the athlete ban repulsive and exclusionary and said she is only responsible for how I vote. On any potential changes Malone might contribute to the bill, Rivera said, unless the amendments completely undo the discrimination, I will oppose it. Smith-Waddell did not comment on Malone's support of the bill, which he said via text would never see the light of day if Democrats held a majority in the Senate. Malone won last month's special election in the deep red 36th Senate District in a historic upset against Republican Lancaster County Commissioner Josh Parsons. Malone's swearing-in ceremony in Harrisburg is slated for May 5th. Now, up next is the weather forecast, and when we return after a few announcements and some sponsorship material, we will be sharing a statement in opposition to this legislation from the Pennsylvania Equality Project.